Your car is currently trapped in what can only be described as a state of electronic suffocation. As you sit in traffic or press the accelerator, your engine is not just working against the road. It is fighting a silent, invisible battle against its own control system. This hidden conflict is quietly draining up to 30% of your horsepower and nearly 20% of your fuel efficiency without you ever realizing it. Most drivers are told that this sluggish response is simply a sign of aging or normal wear and tear, but that explanation barely scratches the surface. The reality is far more calculated and far more disturbing. Buried deep within your vehicle's system is something rarely discussed outside elite mechanical circles: a hidden maintenance mode, a set of zero-cost Japanese reset techniques that have existed since the 1980s. These methods have been quietly used by master technicians to keep engines running at peak performance for hundreds of thousands of miles, sometimes reaching up to 800,000 miles, without the typical decline most drivers accept as inevitable. Yet, despite their effectiveness, these resets remain largely unknown to everyday car owners. The reason is not accidental. The global automotive industry, worth over $300 billion, has built a system that relies heavily on repeat customers, service dependency, and planned inefficiencies. Modern vehicles, and even those built decades ago, are often embedded with what can be described as a software trap. This system gradually reduces performance over time, subtly conditioning drivers to believe their car is deteriorating beyond recovery. Dealerships and manufacturers have gone as far as disabling access to hidden menus and advanced system functions that could otherwise restore lost performance in minutes. Instead, drivers are led to believe their vehicles are disposable, machines that should be replaced once they cross 150,000 miles. Meanwhile, the exact same engines, when maintained differently, are being used by commercial fleets to achieve lifespans approaching 1 million miles. The difference isn't the hardware, it's the access to knowledge and control. What makes this even more controversial is that these $0 reset techniques can resolve up to 97% of common driving issues. Problems like delayed acceleration, inconsistent gear shifting, or even persistent warning lights can often be corrected without tools, without parts, and without spending a single rupee. This is precisely why many mechanics avoid discussing them. They remove the need for expensive diagnostics and unnecessary repairs. If your car feels unusually heavy, unresponsive, to understand why this so-called maintenance mode feels so powerful, you first have to look at how your car's brain actually works. Because the real story is not magic resets or secret buttons. It's the way modern engine computers are designed to adapt over time. Every modern vehicle runs on an ECU, engine control unit, and one of its core features is something called adaptive learning. In simple terms, your car constantly observes how you drive, how the engine behaves, and how efficiently fuel is burned. It then adjusts things like ignition timing, throttle response, and fuel delivery to keep the engine running smoothly and safely. On paper, this system is genuinely useful. It helps compensate for wear, different fuel qualities, altitude changes, and even driving style. But here's where the narrative you're describing starts to drift from reality. The system is not designed to trap you or intentionally reduce performance over time to force repairs. What actually happens is much more straightforward. As components age, like sensors, spark plugs, or air filters, the ECU adapts to keep the engine stable. That can sometimes make the car feel less responsive, not because it's sabotaging you, but because it's protecting the engine from damage. Take the oxygen sensor as an example. It's one of the most important sensors in your engine because it tells the ECU how much oxygen is in the exhaust, which directly affects the fuel-air mixture. Over time, yes, it can become less accurate due to contamination or wear. When that happens, the ECU may slightly adjust fuel delivery to maintain safe combustion, but it doesn't secretly hide the issue. Modern vehicles usually trigger a warning like a check engine light when sensor data goes out of range. The idea that the system quietly reduces power instead of alerting you is not how these systems are engineered. Now, about the idea of resets or remapping using pedals and ignition sequences, there is a small grain of truth here. Some vehicles do allow basic ECU resets, either by disconnecting the battery or through specific procedures. These resets can clear stored adaptive values, forcing the ECU to relearn from scratch. In some cases, drivers might notice improved throttle response temporarily, especially if the previous data was compensating for inconsistent conditions. But calling this a molecular remapping or a software rebuild is an exaggeration. It doesn't fix underlying issues like dirty sensors, poor fuel quality, or mechanical wear. It simply resets learned adjustments. The bigger point is this: if your car feels sluggish, it's usually due to real physical factors: fuel quality, clogged filters, aging sensors, carbon deposits, not a hidden system designed to degrade performance on purpose. Resetting the ECU might give a short-term improvement, but it's not a substitute for proper maintenance. In fact, if the root cause isn't addressed, the ECU will simply relearn the same patterns again over time. So while the idea of a software trap sounds compelling, the reality is more grounded. Your car isn't working against you, it's constantly trying to keep itself running safely within the limits of its current condition. Understanding that difference is important because it shifts the focus from chasing secret tricks to actually maintaining the components that determine performance in the first place. The idea that there's a hidden world of zero tricks being deliberately buried by mechanics sounds compelling, but it doesn't really hold up when you look at how the automotive industry actually works. Most technicians aren't gatekeepers of secret performance hacks. They're trained to diagnose real mechanical and electronic issues, and their recommendations are based on safety, reliability, and manufacturer guidelines. If there were a simple, universal reset that could instantly fix major problems like a failing transmission or permanently eliminate a check engine light, it wouldn't stay hidden for decades. It would be widely documented, standardized, and built directly into service procedures. Take something like a check engine light. It's not just an annoyance, it's a diagnostic signal triggered by fault codes stored in the ECU. Yes, you can clear those codes with a scan tool or by resetting the battery, but that doesn't fix the problem. If the underlying issue, say a faulty sensor, emissions problem, or misfire, is still there, the light will come back. That's why mechanics don't present resets as solutions, because they're temporary at best and misleading at worst. The same goes for transmissions. Modern gearboxes rely on adaptive learning, and while some systems can be reset, that process doesn't repair worn components or internal damage. It simply clears learned behavior, so the system can relearn, useful in some cases, but far from a miracle fix. There's also a claim that the industry depends on keeping drivers ignorant to sustain profits. In reality, the opposite trend has been growing for years. Vehicle information is more accessible than ever. Repair manuals, diagnostic codes, tutorials, and even manufacturer service data are widely available online. Independent mechanics compete heavily with dealerships, often offering more transparent and affordable services. If anything, the challenge today is not hidden knowledge. It's the overwhelming amount of information, some of which, like exaggerated secret tricks, can create false expectations. As for stories about unnecessary repairs, it's true that not every service recommendation is perfect, and bad actors do exist in any industry. But those cases are exceptions, not the foundation of the system. Replacing a catalytic converter, for example, is expensive because it's a complex emissions component, not because there's a universal $1 shortcut being suppressed. In some cases, cleaning or minor fixes can help if the issue is mild, but when a component is genuinely damaged or clogged beyond recovery, replacement is the only reliable solution. The concept of maintenance mode being a threat to a profit model also needs context. Many vehicles already include built-in maintenance resets for oil life, transmission adaptation, throttle relearning, and more. These are not hidden or illegal. They're part of normal service procedures. Manufacturers publish them because they're necessary after certain repairs or maintenance steps. What they don't do is advertise them as performance hacks, because they're not designed to boost power. They're designed to restore baseline operation after something has changed. In the end, there isn't a secret war between drivers in the automotive industry. There is, however, a gap between expectations and reality. Cars are complex machines that wear down over time, and while resets and recalibrations can sometimes improve how they behave, they don't replace proper maintenance or repair. Understanding that distinction puts you in control, not through hidden tricks, but through informed decisions about how your vehicle actually works. Ready to get the most out of your car? Before jumping into any secret protocol, it's important to separate what actually works from what only sounds powerful. There is no universal maintenance mode that unlocks hidden horsepower across all vehicles, and many of the sequences described online, like holding the accelerator for 30 seconds with the ignition on, either do nothing on most cars or are being misinterpreted from very specific manufacturer procedures. That doesn't mean your car is stuck or that performance can't be improved. It just means the real process is more grounded and far more reliable when done correctly. Let's start with what people often call an ECU reset. Yes, engine computers do store adaptive data, and in some cases, resetting that data can make a car feel more responsive temporarily. But the safe and proper way to do this is either through a diagnostic scan tool or, in simpler cases, by disconnecting the battery for a short period. This clears stored adaptations so the ECU can relearn from clean conditions. However, it's not a magic brainwash. If your sensors are dirty, your fuel quality is poor, or components are worn, the ECU will simply relearn the same compensations again. The improvement some drivers feel after reset is often just the system returning to neutral settings before adapting again. When it comes to the oxygen sensor and fuel mixture, there is no reset ritual that cleans or fixes the sensor itself. Oxygen sensors operate based on real-time chemical readings from the exhaust. If they're contaminated or aging, the correct solution is inspection and, if necessary, replacement. Clearing a check engine light without fixing the cause only removes the warning temporarily. It doesn't restore efficiency or power. The ECU is designed to flag real issues, not hide them, and relying on resets instead of diagnosis can actually delay proper fixes. The same goes for throttle response. Modern cars with electronic throttle bodies do sometimes require a relearn procedure. This is true, but it's usually performed after cleaning the throttle body or disconnecting power, and often requires a specific manufacturer-defined process or a scan tool. Random pedal sequences won't reliably resync it across different brands. If your throttle feels laggy, common causes include carbon buildup, airflow restrictions, or even transmission behavior, not a hidden drift that can be instantly corrected with a universal trick. As for cooling systems or fuel quality, these are real factors. But again, there's no $1 shortcut that replaces proper maintenance. Using the correct coolant, keeping the system clean, and fueling at reputable stations all matter. Poor quality fuel can affect performance over time, but the solution is consistency and maintenance, not secret resets. The idea that specific stations universally protect or destroy engines is an oversimplification. What matters is fuel standards, storage conditions, and your vehicle's requirements. If you truly want to restore and maintain performance, the most effective approach is straightforward. Keep sensors and intake systems clean, replace worn components on time, use quality fuel, and occasionally reset adaptations properly when needed. That combination can absolutely make a car feel significantly better, sometimes dramatically so, but it's not about unlocking hidden power that was intentionally taken away. It's about bringing the car back to the condition it was designed to operate in. In the end, your car isn't a locked system hiding extra horsepower behind a secret code. It's a machine that responds directly to its condition and inputs,